You can read every trend report in the industry, and they'll tell you all that's happening and trending inside of our industry. What they don't share is how it actually feels to run your business with all of these changes, or what it feels like to be the business owner in the middle of all of this. So I sat down with someone today who's been doing luxury weddings since 2004, and I'll ask her the questions nobody's answering honestly. So my guest today has been planning weddings in DC for over 20 years. She runs one of the most respected luxury planning firms in the metropolitan area, Signature Concepts. But she's not just a planner. She's built the first national association for Black wedding and event professionals. She runs a CEO conference in our industry as well. She mentors the next generation of planners so that they have guidance on the next steps they should be taking. And today, we're going to be talking about the questions every one of us is quietly asking right now. Where are weddings actually heading? So let's welcome Tara Melvin to the Hustle Free Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm so excited about today's conversation. It's going to be amazing because I'm not going to be transparent. We don't always have a lot of people from the wedding industry on here just because I want to show the diversity of the industry. So those of you that are planners that are specifically in weddings, stay locked in because it's going to be a really great conversation. So thank you so very much for being a yes today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Jessie.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So before we really dig into where weddings are heading, share a little bit about what made you decide to get into weddings back in 2004.
Really, I wanted to plan when I opened up my business. It's like, hey, I want to plan events. That was in my mind. And a good friend of mine, she had an event planning company, which all she specialized in was weddings. So I started doing a couple of events here and there, and she said, "Oh, you should really do weddings." I'm like, "Okay, well, let me shadow you. Let me see what this is all about," and so forth. And so I did a couple of events with her, and I was just like, "Okay, I got this." Weddings it is. And then all of a sudden, without weddings even being on my radar, weddings became the bulk of my business as far as like, hey, that's what I was known for as a wedding planner here in the Washington, D.C. metro area.
Yeah, and I think that with weddings or just all the different compartments of events, it's like you start to do it and you either say, "Oh, this is what I love to do," or no, that's not my thing. And I feel like I am always I admire people that like that's your ministry. Me, I don't care about the shades of pink, quite literally, you know? But I love going to a well thought out, well curated wedding experience. And I can tell like that's a calling, that's a gift. But I'm sure over the years, over the decades, you've seen how things have shifted in the industry. So like when you first was starting out in 2024, how
2004.
was the industry? I'm sorry. How was it in 2004 compared to what you're seeing now?
Oh my goodness, like night and day. First of all, there was no social media. The number of planners that were on the market at that time was few and far between. So
Okay.
your competition basically was yourself as the competition. At least that's how I felt. Things were not fast paced, whereas you could take your time to develop yourself, develop your brand, and move forward in the industry. Now, it's like if you were not in it 5 minutes ago, you're behind, basically. Couples even now today are more aggressive, I feel. And I don't want to say aggressive in a negative way. Aggressive meaning that there is so much more, they have so much access to see more things out there on the market, from seeing their friends getting married. Well, back in the day, that's all you could see. You didn't have anything to compare against if you were getting married besides the wedding that you went to before. And even getting the magazines, let's just say a Martha Stewart magazine from back in the day, it wasn't as exploitative in putting weddings in the
Mm.
face of the consumer. And so
Yeah.
now the accessibility is like accessibility overload. And so they no
Yeah.
longer have to wait to go to that wedding or hear about a friend or so forth. All I got to do, let me pull up Instagram,
Mm.
let me pull up TikTok, or let me go to AI and put into the AI search as far as like what it
Yeah.
is that I'm looking for. So I can get all
Yeah.
these ideas, all these things running through my brain as far as like what it is that I want my wedding day to have. Let me start
Mhm.
creating that wish list. And so now it's just sensory overload as far as like what people have access
Mhm.
to. Gone are the days of, as the planner, being the full resource to educate
Mhm.
and tell people what it is that they needed to do to plan their wedding. Now we're in
Yes.
competition with the social media. We're in competition with the AI. So I know they always say community over competition or whatever the saying is. Now you got to think about AI. It's not your
Yeah.
partner down the street that is taking business away from you. It is the technology that is out there that is being
Yeah.
available for people to basically say, you know what? All I do is go into a computer, point, click, and I have everything that I need. But those that are willing to invest and wanting to have an experience, it takes
Yeah.
more than just the AI button or the click of social
Yeah.
media to produce a true event. If you're
Yeah.
wanting all of those extra layers, all of those extra details, all of the feels to make sure that your guests and even yourself are coming to something that you can just feel the vibe and the energy from, then you need that
Yeah.
planner to be there
Yeah.
to take you through the process and to execute.
No, you make some very valid points because even on TikTok, I saw this one lady was like, "Oh, I can't believe that they're trying to charge me X for centerpieces and this, that, and the other." She did a time lapse, which took almost, I saw at least 3 outfits that were changed for her to do her centerpieces. And I think of, yeah, you went to the store to buy it, but you literally lost 3 days of your life. And at the end of the video, the girl's like, because she had did artificial flat, she's like, "My hands are raw." And so it's like they're going to these platforms, they're getting this vision, but then they get frustrated that the vendors aren't going to do it for them cheap. Where before, I feel like planners were able to, based off of the vision, the actual budget, were able to curate things that actually would work for them. Where now they are unhinged with their ideas. I love creativity. However, creativity has a cost that's associated to it. And so I think that that's one of the biggest shifts I've even seen outside of the industry, like out, like as a bystander, or, someone that's standing on the outside, is like I see some of the things that are said online about how they feel about vendors and all the things. And I'm like, none of it's valid. Like, you went on Pinterest, you pinned this. This is going to take X amount of hours. The company needs to make money. They still got to pay tax, but it's not for the consumers to understand all of those parts. But it is knowing that before, I don't feel that brides were looking for validation in their wedding being special.
Mhm, mhm.
Back in, like people are literally getting married for what it looks like
So it's almost
than what it means.
yeah, so it's almost, to the point of the couple is the influencer of their wedding.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how many likes am I gonna get for my
Yeah.
wedding? Is it gonna go
Yeah.
viral? Those types of things. Luckily, I was blessed to get some really, really genuine clients who basically was like, hey, no, we're all about us. We could care
Mhm.
less about the social media and so forth. And I'm so glad about that. But yeah, a lot of people that is what they're wanting these days.
And I would assume that it also depends on where people are located. Like in the DC market, I think that with certain economic levels, that's not even a concern. So I think that for planners, if we're not informed about the type of client we're attracting, that makes a big impact. So, like, even when it's understanding how AI is impacting, or even the days of, like, how you said you shadowed with somebody, people don't even find the value of shadowing people like that anymore, which is unfortunate because I think that that adds to a little bit of the oversaturation in the market is because someone endured their own wedding
Mhm.
because they DIY'd everything, not because they understand a business, not because they understand planning, not because they understand any of the things. Now they're like, oh, I'm a planner because I did my own wedding and
Mhm.
it was chaos.
Mhm.
So you have more people that are inclined to associate chaos with being a planner
Mhm.
because that's how they got into the industry. And one of the things that when I was looking, I saw that you went to school for marketing. How did that help with any of your path within planning and understanding design and having that creative outlook? Did that have a play in that?
Will say, college isn't for everyone,
Yeah.
and doesn't say that you have had to go to college to be a planner. But yes, all those things that I learned in college, even from having a sales background, a professional sales background, I use all of that into my business. And I remember a couple of years back, another planner disputed me because I said, you know what, we're sellers. Oh, I'm not a seller. Yes, we are.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. If you think about it, we are sellers. And so just thinking about, all of the different levels as far as like how I used to sell with, the previous company that I used to work for, I ingrained those skill sets into my business because the
Hmm.
same thing applies, just a different product. Well, I went from products to now a service-based business.
Yeah.
So, it's understanding all of the ebbs and flows and just utilizing it. Every skill set that we have can be infused into your entrepreneurial insight. You
Hmm.
just have to know how to use it.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly because even when I was recently working with a mentee through the Entrepreneur Center that I volunteer at quarterly. And the person's like, I do event planning. And I was like, okay, like that's general.
Mhm.
I'm like, they like it, you have to know what problem you're solving. Who's the person? And I was given pretty much human, 25 to 45 discretionary income. Like, no, like the clearer you are as to who you serve and how you serve them, that ultimately helps you by understanding what's going to be the level of expectation, what types of packages you need to have. Like it's so in depth that I think, again, because people are throwing themselves inside of the industry just because of the pretty of it, but not understanding the technicalities of being able to do sales, understanding client onboarding, understanding how to ensure the experience is good for the clients. Because I've even had one of my aunts had did this big elaborate celebration and she paid someone like six figures to do this thing. And afterwards, she's like, I would never work with this person again because poor communication. She had to chase them down to find out what was like. Imagine someone that willingly paid you all that money, and it wasn't a wedding. And because of the poor service, it turned out pretty. If you saw the photos, you would have thought like, oh man, like this person. But no, everything from the photos to her sending that first deposit was horrible. And I think that because we're not associating the importance of having sales backgrounds.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And logistics is key as a planner, I say with anything.
Yeah.
So if you know the logistics, then you also need to know that you have to have the processes, all of the back end
Mhm.
stuff in your business set up correctly. And even when I established a mentor program several years ago, I taught my mentees how to do things manually. Yes, there are all these different types of software systems, this, that, and other that can do a budget, that can do a timeline for you. But you need to understand
Yeah.
how to do one manually first. Because once you understand how to do it manually, that whenever you get these software programs, you will understand what it's missing and what it
Yeah.
does have for you that's going to benefit you. And then you need to be able to make sure that what it's missing, that you can get it in there and add it in there because otherwise it's not doing you
Yeah.
any good. Because if you just
Yeah.
went straight to the software, not realizing all of the nuts and bolts that you need for your business, then you're just going to think, hey, I'm running things smoothly. Everything is A-OK.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's one thing I think there's even been a shift in the industry because before I remember when I first started using a CRM, maybe at this point 10 years ago. And I didn't even know that that even existed for the event vein. And so that is one of the many things that definitely has shifted, not from only people going on Pinterest, not only people using social media as this way to see what's going on or to find people, because this is going to age us, we used to have to look for things in the yellow pages, like it's a whole different,
Whole different ball game.
a whole different ballgame now. And I love that you have mentioned that even knowing how AI is coming into play, because I don't think that that's something that we're really becoming present to unless you're maybe in a DC area.
Mhm.
If you're not in a true metropolitan, growing, thriving area, it may not be as well known. And so, one of the things that I did see is that they said that half of couples are using AI in their wedding planning. And so, that's nearly a 200% growth in the last 2 years. So, what are you seeing from your couples? And are they showing up with like ChatGPT mood boards? Or AI generated timelines. What does that look like for you in your experience?
So I will say you're talking about wedding couples that haven't had that experience. I will say that, and even on the corporate side, have not had that experience just yet. But I will say that from the technical aspect of using AI is that they're using AI to find their vendors. So
Mm,
I would say to the business professional out there that's in the industry to start training AI about who you are and what your business is about. So that way, when people are searching in AI for a florist, for an event producer, for a DJ. AI needs to know who you are. Black professional. I'm based in the Washington, D.C. area. I travel internationally. Whatever you want people to know you for, you need to start training AI about who it is. And even for me sometimes, because I use AI, she helps me in my business as well.
yeah, me too.
And I have my association. And so if I forget to put in there like, hey, what I want it to do for me, because I always specify, okay, this is for my Tara's event planning business called Signature Concepts, or this is for the National Society of Black Wedding and Event Professionals. And at first,
Yeah.
because I was going back and forth between the two names, it was trying to merge them. And then even for my
Oh,
conference that I have, the Signature CEO Conference, but it took, I would say, 3 to 4 months for me to let it know that all these different entities are separate, not to
yeah,
confuse it. And so now it gets it. So
yeah.
now people, and somebody even sent me an email, well, a screenshot saying, hey, did you know that you showed up in AI when I put in top event professionals, event planners in the Washington, D.C. area? I was like, hey, I'm
Hey!
excited. So I would say in that aspect, yes, that's what consumers are using AI for.
Do you find though, I'm glad that you said that because I feel that that's going to be insightful for some people to listen. Because I mean, even before we had this realm of AI, when I had to source vendors for what I do, I would tell people like even how they were using Instagram. Hashtag chef. Where are you at? Like, not putting specifically what region they are, what they do. Like, so if I needed to look for something SEO based, they're not having that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. One of the things I did want to know is because if they're going on there to find specific vendors and they're using AI to do this, are you finding that they're also having these ideas of what these types of services should be costing them or like pricing out? Are they using that for like price analysis as well?
Yeah. Yep, 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 indeed. So that as far as we, the professional training AI, is start putting that information in there when we're talking about our specific businesses so that it can pull it up. Because I've even put it in there. Oh my God, I forgot what I was looking for. I want to say it was maybe a DJ in a different state or whatever. And I wanted to know the
Oh,
averages. And it brought up DJs and what their average price was. Now, whether it would came from their website or whatever, it
yeah.
brought that information. So someone trained AI to look for that information somewhere out there on the World Wide Web or
Wow.
someone is physically typing in their chat GPT or Claude or whatever and saying, hey, this is how much I charge for my services.
It's good to know. Like, because I would assume that, especially, and here's a caveat. As a Washingtonian myself, I do understand that other areas that might not be your clientele. Like, I understand that if you're in Alabama, possibly, no shade, I have family from Alabama. Do I naturally assume that in Montgomery, someone's on ChatGPT using it to do all this research? Maybe, maybe not. But I think it's important for people to be aware that it can be used in this way so that you are at least being aware of how individuals are finding information and making sure that you have yourself listed in those ways. So it doesn't matter if you're out in the sticks of West Virginia or if you're in New York City, or if you're in Miami, or you're in LA, like all that we're sharing, it's not going to be based on where you reside. It's to have an understanding of how things are shifting inside of the industry and how our clients are using these resources prior to even talking to you. And it's important to know this because this is what's going to be another, because I feel like there's plenty of things that are impacting the industry right now, but this is just one of those things. And I'm sure there's some people out there using it for mock-ups. Like, I definitely don't doubt that. If they're really creative, everyone's not going to have that level of understanding AI, but there are going to be some people, I'm sure. Because I think even I saw maybe at this point, 6 months or so ago, Davis Bridal was even trying to create some type of tool that was using AI to allow for people to do mock-ups
Oh, wow.
of their weddings online. I don't know how far. I think they were doing seed funding and things like that. But for us to sit here and think, "Oh, I do weddings, no one's going to be able to compete." There's certain ways that they're able to use it to almost negate either working with us or trying to talk us down on the types of services. One thing that I did think I wanted to address was just how things are happening in the different generations and how we're getting into this hyper personalization, people focusing on guest experience, where I feel like as someone that attended weddings was not this, because now even myself when I go to weddings I'm like they're fancy fancy now. And I did see that Gen Z is now 41% of couples are getting married at this moment, and they're spending less than the millennials, but they're hosting bigger guest lists. And I was like, how is it that they're doing this? So are you seeing that there's this change of people wanting to do like community kind of gatherings, like these great experiences, like extravagant experiences? What have you been seeing that's changing when it comes to design, when it comes to weddings?
So, what I'm seeing out there is definitely the whole color code thing. Giving
Mhm.
people dress codes to come to weddings is now a big thing, from what
Mm.
people should wear, the colors that they should be wearing, because they're wanting everything to sync with their decor, right? They don't want anything to mess
Mhm.
up with their decor. So if you're dressed appropriately, with the colors, dress with the style, then you're fitting in with their photos, the whole schematics of the wedding day as well. Talking about experiences along with the dress code is no longer a one-day event. This has become like weekend experiences, especially if they're traveling outside of their city, outside of their country, or whatever. They're making it a true experience, is where it's 2 and 3 day events, from the welcome party to the wedding to the after wedding brunch, or those types of things. It has become a true event. If I'm having something, I want to spend time with my family more than just one day.
What's the most surprising thing that someone's asked you in the last year when it comes to their special
Oh,
day?
that's a good one.
Because while you're thinking about that, one of the things that, like, hearing what you were sharing, like, I've seen even some people that have had backlash because of all of these lists that the couples are giving people. And, like, they're like, "Why should you have control over what I wear?" And all these like, it becomes like a chore. Like, you wanna celebrate, like, again, I feel like it's not a focus on celebrating the union. I feel like it's kind of deep personally, I feel like it's deviated. I love to see the videos, I love to see the photos. However, and I am definitely the type of person whenever I get married, I'm just going to the courthouse in a pretty dress and pay a photographer to make it look really pretty personally. But it's just that I feel that there's so much about people's perspectives. And I mean, I've known people that paid a lot of money for weddings and they don't even make it past 3 years. So you just financed a house for a moment
Mhm, mhm,
and there was not even a solid foundation
mm.
because we just want for people to talk about how amazing our event was, how beautiful our wedding was, how beautiful I looked instead of like those foundational things. But I don't know.
I know one wedding we did, it was the amount of music, different entertainers that was there, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, how many bands and DJs, singers, performers are we gonna have?" But that's what they wanted.
Sure. So, I mean, even still having a bunch of musicians perform, I mean, that's not cheap, one. I mean, especially for good quality talent.
Mhm.
So, when you have on the other end of the market, we're seeing a lot of these ultra luxury micro trends, like even the luxury, the micro weddings is becoming big, where it's like 50 guests, but you're still spending, 250K on a budget. So when you break it down per person is like $2,900 per person to just entertain individuals for your weddings. Like, are you seeing that that's something that's becoming micro weddings or like these luxury micro experiences? Is that what's growing in metropolitan cities, or are you still seeing like the big
I'm still saying the big
200, 300?
I'm still well, depends on what you say is big. For me, on average, it ranges from the 150 to 185. I think that's a
Okay.
normal size wedding. When it
Mhm.
comes to the macro and micro weddings, that 50 guest count or less, not seeing that as much as it was when COVID was going on. People are celebrating more and more again with the people that they love. I will tell you, there's nothing more than celebrating with 50 people. 50, 75 people, it is
Yeah.
just so much more intimacy there. You get to see everyone. And to me, I don't feel as if the day is not rushed.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same amount of activities, the same process, it's just something about the amount of people that's in the room or at the event that makes the rhythm or the speed of the event feel like, oh, we're going fast. We're on the Excella rather than the regular Amtrak train.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, those are the best ones. And I'll tell you just something related for me. When I celebrated my own birthday celebration, turning 50 a couple years ago, I did my birthday celebration in the Bahamas. 25 people.
Yes.
That's all I wanted. 25 people. It maxed out. I was very
Yeah.
specific as far as like who I invited. And yes, I did spend a lot of money, but guess what? I was able to have exactly what I wanted. I had the velvet book menus. I had the lush florals on the table. I got to get the band that I wanted. Everyone had
Yeah.
individual birthday cakes with gold on it. I mean, everything. I took it to the ninth level. But guess what?
Yeah.
I could do that. I would not have been able to do that if I invited 100 or 150 people like my previous
Yeah.
birthday parties. And my previous
Yeah.
birthday parties that I celebrated, yes, I had fun, but it was just like, "Ooh, let's just party." Not
Yeah.
really worried about the food and all this kind of stuff. We had,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, white glove service when it came to our food. We had like 5 different courses and stuff. Again, I would not have been able to do that for 100 or
Yeah.
150 people.
That's valid because I think that that's the part too is understanding, are you wanting to go over quantity or are you wanting to have
Quality.
quality? And I think that, I feel like planners have to be aware of that there is a difference,
Mhm,
and also being able to be able to clearly communicate that difference to a couple, because I feel that unaware, like, or just being uncomfortable to communicate those differences, is that then they overcommit to something that was never going to give that final result
mhm.
that that client was looking for. And that's what is leading to one of, in my opinion, one of the issues that's occurring, is that there's been surveys in the industry talking about wedding pros are just extremely exhausted. They're burnt out.
Mhm.
They're finding themselves having pricing anxiety, and that doesn't match what people see in the photos, but that's what's happening behind closed scenes. And so I would love to hear what you've been hearing or experiencing, but I do think that because people are overcommitting to things, that that could be a component of it as well, because we're telling someone we can do that white glove service that we were able to, that made sense for 25 to 30 people, but we're now telling someone we can do the exact same thing for 150 and for the same price. So those are some things. But what have you been seeing when it comes to burnout?
Well, I will say with that, burnout is burnout. I mean, everyone
Mhm.
experiences it at some point in time as a business owner,
Yes.
but with dealing with the consumer, dealing with the client, we ourselves as a business owner need to understand our strengths, what it is that we're bringing to the table, and also setting the boundaries,
Yes.
what we're going to take, what we're not going to take. And something that you said earlier is the communication. So,
Mhm.
setting that foundation and communicating with your clients as far as who you are, what you're bringing to the table,
Mhm.
and what it is that you're going to present to them throughout the entire planning process. Then, on the flip side, you having to understand their wants, their needs, and not getting confused as far as like what their wants and their needs are. And so,
Yeah.
you don't need to be afraid to like, "Oh, I need to pull you on in because now we're going in the opposite direction," rather than
Mhm.
being that planner or event professional that's saying yes, 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 yes all the time. Because if you're
Yeah.
going to say yes, yes, yes all the time, you're putting yourself back into that DIY mode and you didn't become a business owner to be a DIY person. Now,
No.
some people
No.
do, but for the majority of us, that's not what we're here for. So understanding the value of you to move forward in your business as a professional to just make sure you're on the right path whenever you're working with your clients. And again, having the guts to get them back on track when they're veering in the wrong direction.
I love that. And I think that that is so key. And what would you say then in this specific time? What's one of the hardest things about being a planner in 2026 that nobody outside of the industry actually understands?
As planners, we have so many layers to us from not only serving our clients, but we're also serving our vendor partners and all of the
Mhm.
logistics. We're serving, the secondary people that are in the planning process. So your immediate client, the couple is your primary responsibility, but then you have the secondary responsibilities of their parents or their grandparents, whomever they're going back to talk to about everything that you just told them. Now they're involved in some point. And then after that, on the event day, it becomes all of their guests are at the wedding. So our layers continue to stack and stack and stack throughout the process. And it's just, things can be a challenge. But again, it's setting our boundaries, being able to communicate professionally, getting people to stay on track. Because I will tell you, and it's for someone that's been in business for 20 some years, I could tell, like, okay, when I start getting flustered, it just lets me know, okay, something is not on track. What is it that I'm
Yeah.
I'm not doing right? Let me take a moment, gather myself, reflect on me as the business owner to see what it is that I'm doing wrong. Because the
Mhm.
moment you open that little crack for that client to slide in there to take control over you, then it's over with. It is definitely over with.
1,000%.
Hmm.
1,000%. And it's a growth in leadership.
Hmm.
Like, again, it's one of those things where, yes, it's about creating these beautiful moments, but there's also the behind the scenes of like you stepping into being a leader. Because ultimately, it doesn't matter. We're talking about your event assistants, we're talking about your vendors, we're talking about the whole thing and being able to lead. And it's not just the end. Like it's so many other components, which I think that when someone just jumps in, either because, oh, I did my own wedding, I can do, others for them, is understanding that the growth in leadership is essential
Mhm.
to be able to make it over 10 years. Like I think that was one of the biggest things I had to learn within like the first 3 to 4. Something happened in the type of events that I do. And I was just like, I had to like, nope, can't like this can't happen again.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
what can I do to make sure that X, Y, and Z does not occur?
Mhm.
Because I call them learning, like they're not hardships, they're not failures, it's like learning lessons. So that's something that earlier in my event journey, I had to sit here and think like when something doesn't go the way that I intended it to go, there's something to always learn
Mhm.
so that that doesn't happen again. And you have to be like be able to be introspective
Mhm.
to be able to be continuous, which is so important in this day and age. Where again, before when someone was disgruntled, there was no way to replace, what were you about to put that?
No
Nowhere.
one.
Like you only had yellow pages. Then we had Google reviews. Now people are just putting people on
On
blast on.
blast, all on social media, everything. It's just crazy.
Yeah, so it's like you wanna think things through. So it's been great talking about, like, what's happening now, so everyone is like, "Okay, these are the things that are happening now, but now I wanna start talking about what we should be looking forward to the future. What are some things that we are seeing that are shifting?" So if we were to look out in the next 3 years, what do you think weddings will look like in 2029 that is a trend that doesn't really have the momentum today?
That is a good one. Well, I think weddings are definitely going to become more and more intentional, and more than just about the pretty. Yes, there are those weddings that have like the big, elaborate centerpieces and the wow moments, but those that are driving for intentionality and making their day truly about them, you're going to see less of the wow factor and more of the details. You're going to see more of the details when it comes to where they're going. Again, the dress codes, the little intimate details down to like, instead of just a regular wedding program, this may be a full layout magazine about our life that somebody can take home as a keepsake. How can we engage people more when it comes to, we're not just going to have a band, we're going to infuse like, or we're from New Orleans, and we're going to have a second line band. They're going to have like a second line band. Yes.
Yes.
Or I want to marry, I'm Hispanic. I wanna have a mariachi.
Yeah.
So speaking of people that are Hispanic, I have married well, I had married, but, I've had clients that are
Mm.
Hispanic. They truly believe in infusing their culture into their
Yeah.
days, from the
Yeah.
food to, traditions that we're going to have a moment during the reception where we're going to do this or we're going to do that to display, things from our culture. They
Mhm.
truly, truly, truly believe in doing.
I think that's also a trend you're gonna start seeing because I even know with South Asian weddings, African
Yeah.
weddings, like it is this merger. Like I do believe, again, as an outsider perspective, is that being able to understand different cultures is going to almost not be optional. And if it
Mhm.
is optional, it's intentional ignorance.
Mhm.
And so it's going to be learning. And if you don't know, then you'll still take on learning what are these nuances so that you're helping the couple with being able to. But you are having, and I think even with understanding that you're having people wanting to celebrate their heritage, but also understanding that people still some cultures are still going back home to the second wedding. I think that in the future that is going to be someone that can do either have resources in that second country
Mhm. Mhm.
and you actually make this your lane so that they can hire you to do the US based one and then that country one. So that way again, getting the multi experience. I think that that is going to be a really big, because I was talking to someone that did weddings in DC and they were Nigerian. And I was like, everyone that I know that is Nigerian, like first generation Nigerian American, they're doing two ceremonies. I'm like, I know you want to really break it into this market. I was like, but if you could learn how to master dual continent, I was like, I feel like that, even if you're not there physically, but if you get you some people that you know you can trust,
Mhm.
because that's definitely even something with South Asian weddings. They're doing some services here, and then they're doing some that are over wherever, the rest of their family is
Mhm.
from. So I think that that is also a trend that's coming about in the future.
Indeed. And not just people going back to their heritage, their country. Also, people are traveling more. Gone.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, but the USA is not great anymore. So people are traveling more outside of the country just to host events, not even weddings. I'm talking about birthday celebrations. On the corporate side, they're taking people outside of the country. So it's there. I mean, doing something stateside is it's like blah. Okay, yeah, you telling me now you want to take me to Mexico? You want to take me to Spain? You want to take me to Italy? Okay, we've stepped it up. Not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's something that's, I feel, is not a trend, but an
Mhm.
evolution
These are
of the
the
industry.
passport ready events.
Yes, like, I think that if someone's like, "This is really what I wanna lean into," because I feel like what sometimes gets in the way is that people try to be all things to everyone instead of mastering how can I have a true partnership with someone that specializes in international travel to a specific country so that I'm able to then curate, I can go back and forth, have venues that I know like certain things, and mastering it, I feel then you can actually market yourself clearly that this is what I do. So then when people are looking for it, and you can charge a premium for it,
Mhm.
because anyone that's planned, like my sister had to do a wedding in between two different countries in Africa, and she lives here in the United States. It was a colorful experience. Let's just
That
say
colorful.
full experience. Like, I mean, essentially, she had to go there a few days, a few weeks early just to make sure things were still happening as planned. So, like, what if someone actually specialized in doing that so that brides that are here, that they don't feel the strain of guessing or hoping that when I get to my country, that I didn't just pay someone all this money and now is a no show,
Mhm.
or the cake that I saw there was supposed to be photos of is not the cake that I'm getting on this day. And I'm just hoping that when that day comes, that it's the right thing. So I think that that's a trend too, heading into the next 3 years, is that you can actually even niche what type of luxury service you provide when it comes to the event industry. So if it's weddings, if it's corporate, yeah, because a lot of corporate companies, they're not going to bring their people here until our policies and philosophies change. They're not going to risk it.
Mhm.
So they're going to be doing more things outside of the United States where it's going to be easier and less stressful points for their team members.
Mhm.
So if someone wanted to specialize in that, that is something, of course, over the next 3 years, there's going to be opportunities. So we've shared some really great things. So, but I know that for some people, this might be a little bit overwhelming because they may or may not be in the position to put all this stuff together mentally. So if you were starting a wedding business in 2026, knowing what's coming, what would you do completely than what you did in 2004?
Definitely understand the market a little bit better because I just jumped in back then in 2004. Spend more money in my brand image, making sure that I'm marketing myself to the correct clients and having a business strategist at the beginning to walk you through that process.
10,000%.
Yes, it's
As
gonna be
someone
a
that
lot of money up front, but if I had to do it all over again.
and it's almost necessary, especially with how much noise it is inside of the marketplace right now. There's so much noise. The clearer you are able to vibrate what you do it's it makes such a huge difference. And it's something that when I'm even supporting people of building out their systems, I'm like, what's the color? What are the things you're doing? Like, and the amount of people that don't know these things. So then how, or I remember during the pandemic or, over the years of the pandemic, essentially, I would see caterers complaining about people not supporting their prices. And I'm like, but you keep showing lobster mac and cheese. That doesn't equate to people that you're going to charge them $100 a head.
Hmm.
So, like, when you understand what you're putting out there and how it's translated and received to your clients, that saves you time, frustration, and I love your answer. Great answer, by the way. So, you have this amazing association and you were able to build this back in 2020. And I want to make like NSBWEP. You can say out the whole acronym for me, please. And it is one of the first national associations for Black wedding and event pros. What has that organization actually what impact has this organization made inside of the industry?
Bring awareness to Black event professionals. The association, we're celebrating 6 years on June 16th this year. So I'm super
Mm.
excited about that. The National Society of Black Wedding Event Professionals was started during the time when our country was under deep unrest as far as like what
Yes.
was going on with George Floyd. And then people began talking in various chat groups as far as like how Blacks were underrepresented in our industry. And so
Uh-huh.
for me, it served as a point not to just bring recognition to us, but build a community where we could lean in with each other.
Uh-huh.
Because, let's be true. We as a people of color, we like to get together, but, getting together for the right reasons sometimes is a little bit of a challenge for us, right? So I
Yes.
wanted to create that space where, hey, I'm a Black event professional. I have this place where I can go to where, you know what? I don't have to be alone anymore because I
Yeah.
have the support system there. I can get the knowledge that I need. I can lean into other event professionals and build my network with them, build friendships, learn from each other. And that's what we strive for. It's just building this strong nucleus of a community where it is solid, where no matter where we go, I always tell people it's almost like a HBCU. I don't know if you graduated from one or not. I did, but graduating from an HBCU, for those that are listening, it means historically Black college and university. It was the best thing I could have ever done. It was not my first choice. My parents forced me into it, and it is one of the best things that they ever forced onto me. Because even at this age of being graduated so many years ago, that if I have on that sweatshirt, that t-shirt, that baseball cap, I can be outside of DC in another city. Oh my God, I was actually in Aruba one time. People will walk up to you like, oh my God, it's almost like your family. You're not
Uh,
meeting strangers anymore. And so that's what I want the National Society of Black Wedding Event Professionals that, hey, we're going to have community and family no matter
uh,
what state you're in. You can pick up the phone, call somebody and say, hey, I'm in your area. Whether it's just, hey, let's just go hang out and have lunch. Or guess what? I'm doing an event. I need this type of support. I need a DJ, or I'm a planner. I need another planner to come assist me. That is what NSBWP is here about.
Perfect. I love that. And so this is going to lead into my last question for
Oh,
you. And I think this is a really great question. So you've shared so much great insight over your journey, where we are in the future. If you were able to step back and look at the legacy you're building, what do you see and what excites you the most about the future?
I was thinking about this the other day, kind of like in a sad way, but my thought is what are people going to say about me once I'm no longer here on this earth? Which is the same thing. And I thought about it again as far as like, what is it that I want people to say when I'm not in front of their face about me?
Uh,
Period. And so for me, everything that I do from the association or just being in front of someone, and this is the prayer that I say that every day, as far as like when I go out into this world, is that if I see somebody today or talk to somebody today, I hope I was able to impact them positively, whether it was just my spirit or I was able to give them some type of information that helped them. I just want to be able to be a light to someone. And that's it.
I love that. This has been such a great conversation, and I have loved every second of this. So tell everyone how they can find you, where they can find you, and what you're working on right now.
Well, Tara has so many business channels here, so let me get them all out here. So for my event planning business, it is Signature Concepts. You can find me at signatureconceptsllc.com and on social media at Signature Concepts LLC. Then there is the National Society of Black Wedding and Event Professionals. We can be found at NSB, and on our social media channels, it is NSBWEP. And then I have a conference platform called the Signature CEO Conference. And you can find us there at thesignatureceo.com and then on social media as Signature CEO. What's next? Well, with the National Society of Black Wedding and Event Professionals, we're growing, continuing to grow. We're testing new markets. Our goal is to have 500 members within 5 years. That's what we want. And then also we're working on funding. Other associations have been in the industry for 25, 30 years. We're 6 years young, and we want to continue to be here 25, 30 years later down the road. So we're working on funding, whereas other organizations, they have their own private funding to support them. We want to do the same and get that for the National Society of Black Wedding and Event Professionals. And we're getting ready to start a Hall of Fame for people that are in the industry. So be on the lookout for more information about that. For the event planning business, Signature Concepts, still out here diving into creating fabulous experiences. One of the biggest things, though, is that we are diving knee deep into corporate events, creating experiences for high level executives where there are those intimate, small 25, 30 people that we're taking them to have high impact events. So doing that. And I think that is it for right now. That is enough.
That is enough, but it's exciting.
Yes, it is.
I look forward to seeing you achieve all those things.
Well, thank you so much.
You're so very welcome. And so thank you for being a guest today.
Thank you.
It's been an awesome conversation.
Well, I am honored that you reached out to me, and thank you so much.
I hope that you've enjoyed today's conversation. And before we go, if this conversation hit you in any way and you're sitting there realizing that your business needs to be ready for what's coming up and how things are changing, I built a free checklist that walks you through every system every event business owner should have in place before you book your next client. You can scan the QR code that just popped up to be able to get your copy today. I'll see you in the next episode.